fruit by the foot っていうめっちゃ長いのがあるんですけど、それ長いのが面白いかなと思ってそれだけやりました長いのはただ長いからっていうインパクトで選びましたうん、なんか聞いた話によるとドッピオと文野玉木さんが長いお菓子の片っ端から同時に食べ出して片端ともう片端からどんどん食べ進めていって間にエリーラが挟まれるっていう間に通訳してるエリーラに挟まれるみたいなまあ長すぎるんで全然そんな近づくも何もないんですけど、ただ間に挟まれるエリーラっていうのがあったらしいなんかエリーラに地獄って言われましたねそれ何が起こってるか分かんないってなんか言われてましたねなんかそういうことが楽屋であったみたいですね。そういうことあったみたいでたまちゃんって EN 人気なんですか？それはね、まだ EN ができる前に多分ね、下手したらね、2,3次 EN できる前に2,3次を知っている人、英語圏でですね、知っている人は文野玉木さんと宝自慢さんがカレーを食べるナンを食べるっていう切り抜きがもう殿堂入りしてるんですよその配信が英語に翻訳されてできたクリップが殿堂入りして英語圏に2次3次が知り渡る理由の一つってくらいのそう Do you know 2次3次っていうのがもう今でも言われてますからね、多分Do you know 2次3次ってあれはね特殊でしたね今でももう言ってる人は言ってますね。まあそれはね絶対再現できないなって思いました。話してると本家のを見てもらわないと僕は全然話で伝えることができても再現はできないです。あれはもうね空気に浸らないとねわからない内容です。
I met Doppy-chan. I only met Doppy! Did you guys hear the Doppy story from other livers? 長いお菓子を両端からたまちゃん。その話したのOh, I see. They're just, eating the same gummy, like from edge to edge. That's it. Yeah. 振り返りで話すんじゃない？また。ワンワン物語、まあワンワン物語をしてたよっていう、はい。別にめっちゃロングだったし、そんな近づいてないから。シュウの手土産。シュウさんが、そうなんだ。シュウくんが渡した紙なんだ。なるほどね。なるほど。シュウくんからいただいたってことね。いや、なんかめっちゃフミノさんがすっごい量の海外のお菓子を見せて来られたから、なんでこんな持ってらっしゃるんだろうと思ったら、そういうことね。I see.
What did I meet? Well, Noraneko senpai I also met for the first time. She was probably the one that talked to me the most after Gensuki senpai. She was really kind. She gave me chocolates, and then I was telling her how Millie really wanted to meet her because that's her Oshi. Well, one of her Oshis. Freaking Millie cheater ass bitch. But they always kept on missing each other due to like event scheduling and stuff like that. So Noraneko senpai gave me a pack of like, it was so random. I love her. She's so sweet. She was like, really? I'm so sorry. I didn't prepare anything in advance. Here, have this like instant powdered miso. Give it to Millie. And I was like, She was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't prepare like an actual gift. And I was like, no, I think whatever you give to Millie, she's gonna get really happy. But the first time that she handed me that, I was like, because I was thinking like, do you want me to drink miso right now? Like I already had this one. Of course, I already had this kind of miso. I practically drink one different kind of miso in Japan, both instant or not. I'm like a miso soup catered person. So is it one bag or a box of it? It was like a little box. So I was like, oh, I've already had this kind. She's just like, yeah, it's from Millie. You can give it to her. Tell her that. She was like, tell her that Noraneko senpai send it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I couldn't give it to Millie because it was like the last day of NIJI Fest and we had like different schedules. I had my flight like really early in the morning, so I couldn't stay late. I couldn't give it to her. I did tell her though. She never received it? No. I did tell her like Noraneko senpai sent me something. So like, give to you. It's this. So you still have it? I do. I mean, I asked Mane-san if it was better to like hand it to her, but she was like, no, because Millie's gonna leave like right after. I'm not gonna have enough time to give it to her. And I was like, God damn it. So I couldn't give it to her, but I did tell her and she was really happy. But she was also really mad because apparently everybody in EN would meet Noraneko senpai. And she was apparently the only one that couldn't. Are you gonna use it or just keep it until you see her again? I don't know when I'm gonna see her. I don't know what to do. I guess I'm gonna keep it. I don't have any intentions of eating it just yet. Who knows? I might end up going to Japan again soon. I'm gonna pack that instant miso in my bag just so I can hand it to her the next time. You never know.
But still, I think everybody was just like, "Sugoi." Have you guys heard about that one thing? That one... I wasn't even there for the actual thing, but I heard it like 4 different times from 4 different people. People were telling me about the happening between Pio-chan and Tamaki senpai. I wasn't there in the actual thing. 現場にいなかったんだけど、4回くらい聞いたんですよ。4人ぐらいから。The fruit roll-up thing! I know! I was like, oh my gosh! I heard about that. Oh my gosh. I heard it from 4 different people. They were like, oh my gosh, did you hear what happened with Pio-chan and Tamaki senpai? And I was like, the first time I was like, no. The second I was like, yeah, it's crazy. And they just was like, let me say it again. Tamaki senpai no, すごいなって思った。
I was so nervous. So I go, but my stuff is already in a spot, right? So I have to sit there because my stuff is there. I was like, okay, I'll sit. And there was somebody sitting beside my stuff, so I was like, oh my god. Here we go. I was like, God. Okay, I was like, okay, get it together. Like, you just have to say hajime mashite. It's okay. And like, I don't know why they're like Vox and Doppio weren't there yet, and Meloco was on the main channel doing the interview stuff, so I was the only one there. So I was like, oh my god, help me. Everyone's like, oh, hajime mashite. They all introduce themselves, and I'm sitting next to Fumi no Tamaki-san, and I was like, oh, awesome. And I was like, nice to meet you. And she was like, nice to meet you. Beside her was Fumi-san, so the 3 of us were talking. quite a bit. They asked me a lot of questions. I mean, they could tell I was really nervous, I think. Tamaki senpai asked me, she like turns to me, she's like, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from Canada. And she's like, oh. And there's like a kind of a long silence. And then she looks at me and she's like, Vancouver. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, have you been there before? Because I feel like, you know, Vancouver is the closest place to Japan, right? Like flight wise. So I was like, oh, have you been there before? She's like, no. Like, oh, okay. She's like, but they had the Olympics. And I was like, yeah, like 15 years ago. Well, I don't know, like 13 years ago. I was like, yeah, quite a long time ago. And then Fumi-san's like laughing. She's like, it was that long ago? And I was like, yeah, maybe like 15-ish years ago, the Olympics, yeah. What happened after that? I can't remember the order. I think Doppio and Vox came after that. And then Doppio starts like tapping me on the shoulder, and he pulls up a picture of like Fumi no Tamaki. He's like, that's her? And I was like, yes, buddy, she's right there. And he was like, she's a legend. And I was like, what are you saying? And he was like, she's a legend. And I was like, yeah, she is. And he was like, that's crazy. And I was like, oh my god. So I'm sitting, right? And then on my left is Tamaki-san, and then on my right is Doppio. And they're trying to talk to each other, but it's over me, which was crazy. So then he was like, oh my god, Densetsu no Fumi no Tamaki-san. And she was like, yes. And he was like, oh my god, he was like freaking out. He's like pointing at her. He's like, oh my god, Densetsu no Fumi no Tamaki. And I was like, what is happening? And then she straight up turns to him and goes, do you know NIJISANJI? And I felt like I was living a very special monumental moment in life. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm experiencing this in real life right now. She said the thing. I was freaking out, like mentally. I was like, oh my gosh, she said it. And then he was like, oh, Sukoshi. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know if Doppio knew what was happening at that moment. Like, I think I was freaking out more about the fact that she asked him, do you know NIJISANJI, than anything else. So I turned to her and I was like, this guy is a little weird, so don't mind. I was like, the rest of Niji-en speaks English. This guy is speaking a language of his own, is what I told her. And she was like, oh, okay. But I was like, wow. I'm living a crazy moment right now where it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like Doppio is crazy, but like at 100%. Tamaki senpai is like, it's like different. Like, he's really high energy crazy, and she's like, I don't want to say, she's like really low energy, you know, like she's at her own pace kind. So it was like literally sitting between like 0 to 100 on one side of me to the other side. They went to go get food, and then she came back. And she sat beside me again, and she was like, look at this. And I was, she brought out like it was like a pack of goldfish, fruit by the foot, and a Rice Krispie square. She hands me the goldfish. She's like, can you read this? And I was like, yes. She's like, what does it say? So I was reading the English packaging. And she's like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, this is called a goldfish. And it's a little cracker that kids really like to eat. It tastes like cheese. It's really salty. And it's really popular. And then she was like, what's this? And the Rice Krispie square. And I was like, do you know Rice Krispie cereal? And she said no. I was like, I don't know how to describe this. And I was like, it's rice. It's like puffed up. And then you mix it with marshmallows. And then you form it into a square. And it's really sweet. And she was like, oh, okay. And she's like, what's this? And it's a fruit roll-up. I haven't seen a fruit by the foot in so long. So I was like, oh, this is a fruit by the foot. But I didn't know the word for foot, as in like the measurement in Japanese. So my manager was there. So I turned around. I'm like, what is a foot in Japanese? And she's trying to tell me, but Doppio is yelling, Ashi! Ashi! Beside me. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. So Tamaki-san is like, what? Is foot flavored? And I was like, no. No. I was like, it's probably like strawberry flavored. I was like, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this to you, but this guy won't stop yelling and my manager won't stop laughing because my manager is also Doppio's manager. So she was there and she was like trying her best, but this guy won't stop. So I was like, shut the fuck up. So I think she couldn't understand what I was trying to tell her because Doppio kept yelling. So she opened it and I was like explaining it to her and she like unraveled the whole thing. And it was really long. I was telling her it's 3 feet because that's the slogan, right? It's 3 feet of fun or whatever. And she's holding it. She's like, oh my god, this is really big. And then she almost ate it with the paper. And I was like, no. And I was like, you have to take this part off. It's paper. It's like to keep it. It's like a flat, like a paper to keep the rest of the candy safe. And she was like, oh, okay. So then she's like eating one end and then she holds up the other end to me. And I was like, whoa. I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god, I'm too shy. And I was like, me? And she's like nodding. And I was like, oh, I was too shy. And I was like, and I guess I took too long because from behind me I hear, I love fruit roll-up. And this fucking guy, he was like, oh, fruit roll-up, I love fruit roll-up. And he just, and I was so shocked. And I was like, no way. And I was like, I had to rip it. I had to rip it in half. In the middle, because I was like, hell no. And I was like, Meloco, help me. But Meloco was on the other side of the room talking to somebody. I was like, Meloco, help me. And I'm like calling out to her, but she's busy talking. So I was like, and then I had to rip the fruit roll up in the middle because I was like, Umino-san, get behind me. Get away from this guy. So I think after that, Doppio realized that there were snacks. So he got up and he left. And then like Fumino-san taps me on the shoulder and I turn to her and she's like holding up a picture of Doppio on her phone. And I was like, Oh no, she was like, how do you spell his name? I was like, oh, it's like this. So she looked it up and she's like looking at him on her phone and she's like, I will never forget him. She's like, I know you and I know Vox. I know Meloco. And she's like, and now I will never forget Doppio. I was like, oh my god, I apologize so much. I was like, I'm sorry that he's like this. I couldn't believe I was witnessing the do you know NIJISANJI in real life? I was like, oh my god, it's happening, guys. I was the only one freaking it, probably. Nobody else in that room knew what was going on, except for the three of us. And I think I was the only one out of me and Doppio who knew how monumental of a moment that was. It was crazy. Oh my god, I was freaking out. But yeah. That was my first day at NIJI Fest.
Densetsu no Tamaki Senpai story. Fruit by the foot story. Alright, so how do I want to tell the story? Me and Vox are arriving to the venue. The manager was like, alright, we should all do self-introductions. And I'm like, alright, awesome, we're gonna do self-introductions. I remember I got up and I started chuny posing. Like I put like my two peace hands, right, into my eyes. And I posed and I said, 俺は大天才の D だ Doppio Dropscythe. And then I remember, I think it was Fumi Senpai. Fumi Senpai who said, Genki. Who was with me. So Fumi Senpai was there. I remember also seeing Sophia Valentine-san. Also, Meloco would come in later. Oh, Elira was there, of course. And then I remember, who else but Tamaki-san. Norineko-san. She introduces herself and I'm like, Densetsu no Tamaki san desu. Densetsu no Tamaki-san da! I start going crazy and I'm like, Elira, is that really Norineko? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, really? I pull out a picture on my phone and I'm like, this person, it's this person. She's like, yeah. Densetsu. And then Elira's like, why are you saying Densetsu? And I'm like, you don't understand. She's legendary. I'm like, what legends do you know about Norineko? I know that she's absolutely unpredictable. Maybe even more insane than I am. There are so many shenanigans that I've heard about her that you would say, did these things really happen? You know, a lot of people are kind of like, I met Doppio Dropscythe and I can't believe he's a real person. I was the same way when I met Tamaki-senpai. I was so flabbergasted. I was like, oh my god, she's a real person? Because the legends that I've heard about her are like, she went to the hospital for what? I'm explaining everything to Vox. And Vox is like, I'm trying to explain like things to Elira, but Elira's like, you can't say those things out loud. And I'm like, She's like, what are you trying to say? And I'm like, and then I show her like the legends, and she's like, what? You know more about NIJISANJI than I do. Anyway, I'm not sure if I used the right words either, so I'm not gonna repeat them on stream just in case. But Elira was really flabbergasted by what I was talking about. Anyway, Vox is probably thinking, oh no, there's two of them. Probably. And I remember Tamaki's senpai. She was asking about what was a fruit by the foot. Elira was trying to explain it to her that a fruit by the foot was kind of like this fruity snack that kids in the West like to eat. And it's really old school. And I remember she was talking to a manager, she was talking to our manager, and she was like trying to figure out how to explain that it's like a length kind of joke, saying like, oh, it's like fruit by the foot, as in that it's like an entire like foot long sort of like measurement joke snack or whatever. And she asks what foot, like how to translate foot into Japanese, and I'm like, ashi! 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 And she says, shut up, Doppio! And I'm like, ashi! Ashi! I think Tamaki-senpai was like, ashi? I think she was like, is it foot flavored? And I'm like, yes! It's foot flavored! Foot! Ashi! Ashi! Ashi no nioi! Well, no, not nioi. How do you say taste again? Vox was like trying to keep it together too, I remember. I remember the manager was laughing. And I was explaining, and Elira was like, you're gonna make her think that it's foot flavored. And I'm like, that's the plan! That's the plan! That's my plan! Yeah! 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 Spreading misinformation. Yes! Actually, yeah, I guess so. Why is that the plan? I don't know. I'm not really thinking about it, but I'm thinking, yeah, it tastes like feet. Yeah! 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 I think one of my plans was for her to like not want to eat it so that I could just like scoop it up and eat it myself. I remember thinking something along the lines of that. I'm seeing this fruit roll-up in the hands of Tamaki-senpai. And I'm thinking, I want to eat this. So I snatch it out of her hand, shove it in my mouth. The entire table moves with the force of a really giddy kid who really wants to eat a fruit roll-up. Elira starts screaming in my left ear. And I remember thinking, this is delicious! And so I remember like Tamaki-senpai is like eating it slowly, but I'm like chomping it down like Pac-Man. To the point where I think I eat like 70% of it, and Tamaki-senpai probably eats like 10% of it. And Elira's like, yeah, this has to stop. So she like rips it in between me from eating the entire thing. And I'm just like, I'm left with like this little bit of fruit roll in my hand, and I'm like, but I ate most of it, so you know, I still win. I ate most of it, so I still won the fruit roll-up competition. But, yeah. Elira stepped in. Thinking about it, I guess... I guess maybe what I did was a little bit too energetic. I remember a lot of people in the room were like wondering what was gonna happen next. She said that she'll never forget you. Oh yeah, you're talking about Densetsu no Tamaki-san, yeah. At one point, she was talking to me, and she said, do you know NIJISANJI? In my mind, I'm blanking out, because that's her legendary line, right? She said, do you know NIJISANJI? And I forgot what the response was. Because I was just completely flabbergasted. I was like, I'm in NIJISANJI! But I'm like, does she mean like, do you know NIJISANJI, like as in like, do you know like NIJISANJI JP? And I'm like, Skoshi. I think at some point Elira's like, oh, don't mind him, he's talking crazy or something like that. But I was flabbergasted too. Man, I love being flabbergasted and flabbergasting people. It was really funny. Fake fan. I heard that Elira had to apologize about you a lot, Lamau. I remember when we were going home. Or like, I think, no, this happened twice. Because at some point, Tamaki-senpai starts like, getting up to like, I think they called her to do something. And I was like, "Hasurenai da yo! Don't forget me. Don't forget me." And then she came back like 2 minutes later, and I was like, "Oh, welcome back." And then when we actually had to leave, I said it again. 忘れないでよ忘れないで
Humino senpai is so cute. She's a bit like awkward, but like, you know, if you watch Humino senpai's stream, she's kind of like that. I told Humino senpai that like the very first NIJISANJI clip that I've ever watched, like my first introduction to NIJISANJI was watching this clip of her and Taka senpai talk about like Nan. You guys know that clip? Yeah, the Nan clip. That's her, guys. That's her and Taka senpai. I was like, the very first clip I've ever watched from NIJISANJI was you and Taka senpai talking about the fact that you both like Nan. And it was really awkward. And she was like, oh, cool. Do you know NIJISANJI? Yeah, I can't believe I got to meet Humino senpai. I was like, whoa, you're the very first person I've ever watched. My introduction to this place. Yeah, it was so cool. It's so cool I got to meet them all. I'm really lucky. Yeah. And then after Sango senpai's duet, it was Humino senpai's duet, which I think was so cute. It was really, really cute. I loved it. Yeah, Humino senpai's and Higuchi senpai's duet was really, really, really cute. I really loved their choreography. I think out of all the choreography, I really liked theirs the best. It was very fitting with the song. I don't really know the song, but and the song that they sang was really, really cute. And it really, really, I feel like it really highlighted the friendship between those two as well, because Humino senpai is really like, it's almost kind of like Millie in a sense. She's kind of crazy, a little bit awkward, and really, really cute. They're not quite the same, but it's just like, it reminds me of Babu. Because I'm like gay for her. Everything reminds me of Babu. Yeah, so like, I really like their choreography, and Humino senpai's like narration was really, really funny, because at one point she'd be like, oh, see, I told you not to do that, and there was like these crashing sounds. It was really funny. Like hers was more quirky,